Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bertie le Roux and Friends. We have a very exciting show for you tonight. And tonight we have Phoebe Manaleng. I hope that I'm saying that correctly. And she's in the green room, and we're going to get her in right away. Good evening, Phoebe. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good evening. I know it's evening for you, it's morning for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us today. I know Bat is very excited for having you. Obviously, talked up the interview. He's very excited. Batty, do you want to take it away?
Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction, Ivan. And once again, Phoebe, a great welcome for you to on Bertie and Friends. We have great fun on these talks. And as I said, it's a comfortable flow. You are an extremely interesting lady. There's so many angles to Phoebe, and I would love to have introduced you, but I'm going to leave it up to you, for you to introduce yourself to us, to everybody that's watching, whether they're watching it now or whether they want to watch it later. Just introduce yourself. Where Phoebe's from, and at the end of the day, what is Phoebe's passions?
Oh, okay. Wow. That's a big span that we're going there. But where am I from? I am broadcasting from the suburbs of Chicago. So that is where I'm from. But my background or my nationality is Filipino. And so that's a big part of that plays into the multifacets of Phoebe, right? Is that Filipino culture. And my upbringing has been rooted in seeking out spiritual things. And that's really been my journey that brought me to you. That's how we got connected. And so that's been a wild journey for so many reasons. I started when I was maybe 5, having this awareness of the spirituality that led me on the path of what I do now, which is really optimal functioning. And what does that look like? And diving deep and deeper into that, and the curiosity that is a part of who I am has brought me to many diverse learning institutions, let's just put it that way. And one thing, if I were to describe who I am and what I do, is I'm a synthesizer. I take information, and I have this gift of teaching, being able to take that information, bring it down to its basics so that people can comprehend the essence of what it is they need to learn. And so that's really a big part of what I do, in taking all this information and then connecting the dots. So that's been the best part of my journey, is kind of connecting these dots that has then connected me to people like you, Bertie. And so again, I'm very grateful to be here. And I think, what was the last thing that you had asked? Like my passions? Was it my passions?
Absolutely.
Well, my passion is to connect with people, and my passion is to travel. So we've talked about me coming down there at some point, and I definitely see that in the future. So we'll keep those doors open. It would be great to have something live with people. I definitely see that happening. But my passions really are things of the spiritual nature, the health of people, and what does that look like, the optimization of their experience here on earth, and how we interact with one another, and how do we reconcile our humanity with the humanity of other people, and coexist in a sense, so that we can make a better world. And that's why I feel we've resonated so much, because that's a passion within you that I've seen. And you have a great talent of being able to also synthesize, but then put together order. So that's what I recognize in you, Bertie, and I appreciate that about you. And you've always been encouraging over the past 2 years that we've spent getting to know each other.
Yes, actually, I think we met each other in 2018.
Yes.
When we introduced to the same mastermind. Just don't worry about it. I mean, the 2 years of COVID, we sort of saw it flying past and
Yes.
without really experiencing it. It's like sitting in a chocolate factory and not tasting anything. You just see the stuff flying by, and all you have is a smell.
Yeah.
So yes, we've experienced so much during this time, and when you shared what you are all about, it's almost breathtaking when you share these passions of yours, and it also flies past me quite often, as I many times say, listen, I'm just a simple boy from the Dales, from the Karoo, the semi-desert in South Africa. So where things are simple. We live a life as far as the horizon. We enjoy the weather. We enjoy the rain whenever it comes, and we smell the earth, and we smell everything, and we taste everything from nature. And that's how we live. We have been brought up. But your ability to take all of that and put it in its rightful place, if I may call it that way, that one understand these things, because we just accept that we're born for a purpose, and we are placed in this earth for a purpose. We live our lives, some of it leaves a legacy, and then we pass through life.
Yes.
But it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you want to understand how complex it is, and still how simple it is, you should speak to Phoebe. She's the so I just want to quickly touch on, you are busy with your PhD, your doctorate.
That's
what
correct.
is it? Just share with us your direction once again. Just want to tie these ends.
Of course. So my dissertation, well, I'll start with the school that I'm at, which is called Saybrook. So Saybrook University. And I searched out that school in particular because, again, my background is things of the spiritual nature and how that connects with your mind and your body. And this was a school that had a degree in mind-body medicine. And that would have tied in my my 35 years in fitness, that would have tied in my naturopathy. So I'm a naturopath, I'm an ND, I'm a certified nutritional coach, master herbalist. So those quantum nutrition, those are things that I delve in as it relates to health. And so I arrived at that school, and early on, I came across this degree called applied psychophysiology. And what I found was this degree is only found at this school, nowhere else in the world. And this degree in particular, or this PhD in particular, is concerned and occupied with proving why we experience what we experience and how we experience what we're experiencing, what we call life. And mind body medicine is more a little foo-foo-y, like how you feel. And, I feel like they're kind of like in the 60s in that sense, right? It's all about this love and feeling. And there's nothing wrong with it. But the applied psychophysiology says, let me show you the data as to why you are experiencing it, and let me explain to you what is happening. And that just snagged me in very quickly. I'm like, yes, I want to know. And in essence, I am studying the physiology of the brain, okay, how the brain works in a different manner than a neurologist would. Okay, so I'm looking at the way that the brain functions and how in turn that affects our experience, the way that we perceive, the way that we comprehend and understand the world that we live in. And once we have and look closely to our individual brains, now we can start bridging the gap between the always and nevers that we have in our mind. I always do this. I never want to do that. I find myself these habits that I'm in. I keep trying to break them, and I do these mantras. I go here, I go there. Nothing has worked. And applied psychophysiology is, well, let's take a look at what's actually going in your brain, going on in your brain, because your brain is directing everything, right? It's processing the information. It's telling your body what to do and what not to do. So why don't we start there? And once we do, we can fill in the gaps so that you don't feel like you're crazy, right? Or people put a label on you. We're not concerned about the labels. We're concerned about your experience. And how do we improve that? And how do we optimize that?
Like I say, every second word is a subject or for another talk of
Sure. Yeah.
a couple of hours. I mean, just phenomenal when you talk about these things, and maybe that's where we sort of meet each other, because just talking about the brain profiling and the whole brain thinking, that helps you with the uniqueness of the individual in terms of what you're thinking preference.
Yeah.
And that we've got to understand that people are different. We are unique, and that people and therefore we act, we talk, we write, we do things in a different way.
Yes.
The same thing, other people may expect us to do certain things, and that's why it drives some of us nuts in terms of school, that box us in, and we actually are free spirited, and that's how unique we are. And when you talk about these things so freely, I once again sit there and saying, what button should I press? What buttons should I press here that we can go
what
on?
door
Because
should we open and go into?
I must keep some of the boxes a little bit for later on, and just press the button where it's the most relevant at the moment. Because what comes up when we talk about coaching and mentoring and consulting, which is very much on the forefront of factual communication with an individual, to help an individual, there's much more depth, and we are not talking NLP here, neuro-linguistic feedback. We're not talking about that. We're talking much more and much wider than that. So and now you share with us that the university in that sense is unique. How would you think? How did they come around doing this course or the study direction, and you're doing your PhD in that direction? How did those things come together at this unique university with this unique line of thinking?
Yeah, that school in particular was founded with a group of psychologists that did not ascribe to the psychology of their day, right, in the 60s. They're like, it was in a sense the birth of humanistic approaches when it comes to psychology, and they were on the forefront of it, and that is the foundation and the base of the school. So I hope I'm not misrepresenting the school too much, but when I did a dive into the school, that is my understanding. And then from there, it just kind of grew, because when they were looking at the human experience, it's not relegated only to the mind, right? Our experience of life is way beyond that. And that's when the mind body aspect came, because it started as a school of psychology, and then it morphed into the mind body connection, that there is something about our spirit, there's something about the intangible world. So for people that don't believe, in spirituality, we can most probably agree on the fact that there is an unseen world, right? And you can call it quantum physics, whatever you want to. But there's something within us that interfaces with our being, that is unseen. And that's how they came about. Now, prior to that merging of those two schools, there were a group of people that had started and embarked on, and their passions were explaining and quantifying our experiences of the mind, right, and of the spirit. And that was kind of the birth of applied psychophysiology. A lot of it was, just looking at how the body functions and finding practical ways to retrain it. And once they got to the realization, and we're talking 50s, right? Like, this isn't recent, it dates back a little bit farther, but you have a group of people that are like, wow, we can train our mind. And once that door was open, it was just, you know, with the emergence of technology, it was like, oh, wow, now here we go. We're really tapping into the consciousness and subconsciousness of people, and what are the factors that play into molding us and our character, right, and our experience, and the individuality. Why are we so diverse? And so that's how that birthed. And then eventually this group of people and the school and what they were teaching then moved to Saybrook, and they've been there. Oh, I can't remember the history. They'll be quite upset about this, but I'm a big proponent of what they're doing. But they're at least 20 years into the program. And so for the people that are called to be on the forefront and the frontier of explaining this and looking deeper into the brain, those are the handful of people that you'll be finding at this school. So I'm honored to be classmates, with who I am classmates with, and even more so, very proud of the instructors that are there, because they are well read, they are well published, and they're a hidden gem that people don't know about yet.
I have no doubt that you are adding value beyond expectations of yourself, and that's why you're part of the team. You deserve to be there. There's no doubt in my mind. What I know about Phoebe, she's part of the team for a reason. She deserves to be there. When you talk about that, I think about these things, about the things that has come to us from the East, India, China, Japan, in terms of thinking, but it's almost like I can put it down as a snippets of wisdom that has come to the West. Now, because we're not really into meditation and all those kind of things. That is, stay away with it. It's almost like my religion says, that is not from here. Mm-hmm. Our religion say that is how you live your life within the context of what I believe and what I understand and what I can almost touch and feel and taste. It's not beyond that. Beyond that goes believing. I just believe it exists, or whatever the case. I don't try to work out the why. The why and the what.
Faith, Bertie.
So am I right that this line of thinking, so as it origin out there and at basically the university and those learned people, it's not something that came over the ocean from somewhere else and culminated in this thinking. It's unique thinking that you're sharing with us.
Correct. And I believe the roots of neurofeedback, in particular, is here in the US. And a lot of the equipment and the theories, all of that is rooted in the US and is coming from a scientific side, right? Where what you're talking about is coming from a highly spiritual side. So there's this exchange between the two of bridging that gap, which in some ways segues us into what happened when I was in Mexico, because I was there for a retreat that in essence was saying, hey, we have the technology on how to hack your brain, so you don't have to be like a monk and sit there for 20 years before you even get to a place to be able to meditate and do whatever, whatever that hierarchy may be. So that was very fascinating that you will start seeing an emergence of this relationship or partnership between science and spirituality. We just need to make sure that everyone's discerning as to what it is they're actually combining together, because that is pretty potent. And that has been my journey and my passion. You ask, what are your passions? Aside from learning and teaching, it's equipping people to be more discerning in the way that they live their life and being more intentional, and teaching people how to evaluate their life to make sure that their desires and their passions are in alignment with their actions and their reality.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you here. Why should I? Why should I concern myself about that?
Well, because if you are not in alignment with, you had spoken about purpose, for example, if you're not in alignment with purpose, then things will be so much harder in your life. You're going to be forcing things to happen. And there are some people that just accept that life is hard. It was hard for my dad. It's hard for me. This is what life is about. This is what being an adult is all about. But for the people that have actually tapped into being in alignment, right, between whatever they believe in, their experience with the object of their belief, their revelation of what their purpose is, when all of those things are in alignment, things flow. But because people haven't experienced the flow, the natural flow of life, all they know is what they know, and that's all they expect. And that's why you need someone that has lived it out in their life to help be a model that there is another way. And then you need a teacher that can then break it down in appropriate pieces at appropriate times so that people can walk into it and it doesn't become another piece of knowledge that they're taking in, but it becomes something that they integrate into their life and they are.
And you studying in that, are you not writing a book as well so that I can get some guidance from somewhere that I can read through it and say, okay, fine, I must adopt this line of thinking, because if I don't do it, I end up where I am just now, because I'm brought up by, they said, life is tough. This world is difficult, but be after this world, beyond this, and in heaven or somewhere we're going, that will be peace and quiet, and that will be wonderful. But yeah, we're here to suffer. We're here to suffer. And what you
that's definitely what I would consider, and that would be a perfect example of the word stronghold. So different regions, different cultures, different religions, different belief sets have strongholds in our mind. And those strongholds are like a prison where we are stuck in that thinking. No matter how many books we read or how many people we talk to or are inspired by, we always reset and revert back to this thermostat, which is the stronghold within our mind. And so part of that journey is being able to identify what those strongholds are and break them off of you, right? But you can't just remove something. It has to be replaced with something else. And that's where the teaching comes into play. And you're asking about a book. Yeah, there are different books that I'm writing. So one of them is called Shift, right? So how do we make these paradigm shifts? And what does that entail? What does that journey look like? We're in the midst of launching our podcast, which is called Mastering Recalibration. And that whole podcast is, again, little easy baby food, tidbits on how do you recalibrate. Once you know that you are totally off in the wrong direction, what now? How do I get back on track? And where is on track? What is the direction that I'm going in? And that's what the podcast is about. And then from there, people will have an opportunity, if they want to do a group study about that, where we meet once a month, they'll be able to do that. If they want mentoring one-on-one with me or with my business partner, Lisa, they'll be able to do that. And if they want to dive even further, we will start off with a 10-day retreat in Costa Rica, where people that have signed up for groups will get to meet the other people in the groups on a 7-month journey of recalibration. Because I've been called as a teacher and leader and coach to help people walk this out in their life. And that doesn't happen overnight. That takes time, that takes investment, that takes intention. So that's what's on my plate, Bertie.
I talk about vision with imagination. The whole concept of having a vision and then living it in the here and now. And you know, we start off by saying we need to press buttons, and I'm sitting here and I like to press a button to say replay, let's go back and replay, and another button let's say let's just go forward. I just want to be there. I just want to be there in the future. I want to start living that deserved life, that vision that is created.
Yeah.
But I just want to step right back to what I say about our birth. You know, we are born unique, gifted by God, or whoever you believe in, gifted, and then to live a life of being extraordinary, to stand out in the crowd. But because of where we find ourselves, communities, schools, whatever, we boxed in, and we are forced to rather be like everybody else. So the bulk of us end up just trying to fit in. That's our goal, is to fit in. But as we try to fit in, we feel this discomfort of pieces of us trying to escape from there, and I don't know why. And if I simplify it for myself, I'm saying, yes, it's Phoebe, and she tells me about this, and I realize that feeling of not belonging, not fitting in, and those pieces that's starting to stick out like a star, all those pieces. That's the reason why I'm here. That's the reason why I'm on this earth, is to be more than what I'm trying to be, or people expect me to be. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I truly believe that everyone is born with that innate knowing that they have been called for a special purpose, a unique purpose, let's put it that way, a unique purpose, and they feel it within their soul. But what they are out of alignment with is that their experience in life is not what they're feeling inside, and they cannot reconcile it. They don't know how to reconcile it. And again, that's what I've been called. That's been my unique purpose, is to be helping people in that journey and creating the platforms, the opportunities. I keep feeling this really strongly, that I'm supposed to go there at some point, and we will have either a weekend of conference of talking about this and giving people the opportunity to experience this, right? And go through a workshop so that they can have tangible tools that they can apply right away, so that they are then able to be closer in alignment and closer into the flow of who they were created to be.
It's almost an element of, when you talk about it, that there's a desire and I define it by saying a freedom that comes with this alignment, because I think to a very large extent we've been, the bulk of us are indoctrinated into certain thinking patterns and responses and actions. Because of our upbringing. And once you understand what you're talking about, that will give you that absolute freedom. Somebody spoke to me about a certain thing, and I can't recall the story anymore. But what come to mind to me is, they always say that, and the story was about the guy that came into this dark cave. That was the first time that ever a human being entered in there, and it's been dark for millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in there and you strike a light, and the whole place light up immediately.
Yes.
There is not a process of getting rid of the dark by chasing it out wherever. Now, the moment you put a light into the dark room, it's instantaneously, there's light.
Yes.
It doesn't take time. So this almost awareness, this freedom will be that same feeling. It's not a process or that one day this cave will be lighted in all its crevices. No, it's instantaneous. So when one goes through this thinking, and you say there's more to it, it's not necessarily, but it's more to life, but there's more to living.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's more to living. And I've had clients in the past where they've received the information, they've They have the light, but they either cover it, right? Or you're talking about light in a cave, and for me, I look more of a jail cell, a prison cell, right? And that's what our mind is. And there are people that are imprisoned by beliefs or things that have been spoken over them, etc. And that I've found also that once that once they realize that that prison that they've been in had no lock, because they're waiting for the key. Oh, how do I get out of this prison? I just need the key. So they're looking for these keys of how do I get out of this? When you're asking the wrong question, was it even locked in the first place? Right? It was never locked. All you have to do is step out of it. And that's why you have the recalibration, because you have to recalibrate the way that you're thinking. And at the same time, you have to have an understanding of the direction. You can't just start walking, right? Where are you walking? But those are the two things. Yeah.
Yeah. I, that's why I'm saying that it's so fantastic to talk about yourself. I mean, I go here, my mind is running at you know, the incredible speed. But I when you talk about this, I was challenged once. I don't know whether it was Ivan or Steve, the guy that was on the radio with, challenged me one day. He said, if you are, you know, locked up in a little room, four corners, there's nothing, it's just darkness, and somebody comes and offer you an option, they'll give you a window or they'll give you a mirror. What would you choose? And I mean, we debated it, we spoke about it so often, and I've challenged people on this whole concept. And when I listen to you now, I was one of those people and saying, I want to take the mirror, because I need to spend more time with myself to understand me and to know my whys and my whats and whatever. And I believe that if I take the mirror, the window will eventually become a still life, like a painting, because you'll see the same picture every time, except when a bird fly past or whatever the case may be. But the window will become a picture. But the opportunity to understand this person, this Bertie, and have that conversation and understanding with a mirror, it to me is the most important. And exactly what you and I are saying is, I must get to understand this person. I mean, this whole the brain and the rest of the body. And I think we spoke about it last time. You're saying that the scientists have found how many brain cells are actually, you know, in your heart itself. Most of them at the top of the part of your heart, where all the pumping and all the energy happens in your heart. Brain cells in your heart. So the fact that
you have more in your gut, by the way, you have even more. Yeah.
Our brain and our heart and our gut is so important. We think with the one and so forth, but there's so much more. But let me just step away, because I want to spend some time on the concept of neurofeedback, which is also an area that you are very passionate about and know a lot about. But just share with us your experience in Mexico, because you had this opportunity that came from nowhere to join a friend, and you ended up in Mexico, and you had almost a rebirth in terms of your thinking whilst there. Just share that with us, please.
Oh, wow. That's packed with a lot of things. So I was down there because I am, or soon to be, the chairman of the board of a nonprofit organization that is researching the technologies and practices and methods to increase our consciousness, right? For people to access more parts of their brain. And I had volunteered to be a part of that research, so we can take a look. Is there really something happening within the brain when you are meditating or doing any of these types of methods that are specifically designed for you to be more enlightened? Okay, so We take these brain scans of people, and because I was there, I was also able to partake and participate in the methodology of what they were doing. It ended up being not just a experience of the journey on what happens with your mind, and why we need to be careful with what we do with our mind and what we expose our mind to. But then there was the spiritual component, because this technology in particular said this method in particular said, we're going to hack the brain. So now that we know the science of the brain, this is how we're going to merge spirituality with science. And we're going to use this information so you can hack your brain. And they're not going to be the first. They definitely are on the frontier. But, there are other methods that are out there, other people that are proponents of this. But for me, I experienced, because I'm a Christian, I believe in God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, or I believe in Yahweh and Yeshua and Ruach, or the Hebrew names. And through that, being in a highly spiritual place already, because the location of this retreat in particular is where the Spaniards did not conquer the Mexicans. And so you have these vibrant indigenous tribes that are still in existence with all of their spiritual practices. And so that entire area is highly charged, highly spiritual, and there's no coincidence then that the people that come in have highly spiritual experiences regardless of what they believe in. And so for me, it was connecting more with God that then gave me insight of, wow, this is what's happening with the brain. And suffice it to say, because I don't want to get too much into the spirituality of it, I don't want to offend anybody that, doesn't believe or is in alignment with that. But what I did see is there is a direct connection between our brain and our spirituality, and that we need to be very careful in what we are doing with both. So even though I'm doing neurofeedback and I'm going to school with this, and there's so many great things that can come out of neurofeedback training, we need to also tread lightly as practitioners and therapists, because we're delving into the spirituality of people and their existence.
But there was more. There was more. You came back with new gifts that you've learned and that you've experienced firsthand, that has impacted on your line of thinking before you went to Mexico. Is that not true?
It's very true. Did I share that with you? Or I just alluded that in our conversation, or you saw it?
I'm an alchemist when it comes to that. I see it and I create.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's where the conversation is leading us, huh? The way that I explain it to most people is just that I was a sleeper agent in the spiritual realm, that was activated. And with that came understanding, what some people would call enlightenment, but clarity. So I was given clarity of vision and purpose and then discernment on all these gifts and passions, and what is the meaning, like what has been driving me since I was 10 was then activated when I was in Mexico, and what I heard from Yahweh was, it is your time. It's time to get up off the couch. And so it is not by happenstance or coincidence that we are having this conversation, Bertie, because this show today is the portal of me stepping into the world and stepping into what I was called to do. And so what you've been seeing and what you noticed is what came out of Mexico was a boldness and a clear direction of where I'm going, why I have been given the tools that I've been given. And I am no longer to be in the shadows, but I am to step forward. So if this is resonating with you and you feel like we can put together a conference, I will be there with no charge. I will be there to partner with you on this because I know you have a passion for the people in your realm, right? And that you have influence over in your sphere. So I will make myself available whenever that time is appropriate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I wasn't pushing you in the direction here. I'm just wanting and have the desire to show Phoebe to the world, because she deserves to be seen and to be heard.
Thank you.
That's all I was trying to do. And it's interesting when you were talking about that, you mentioned earlier about joining the dots. And you know, people often ask me, so it's fine to create this imaginative vision for yourself.
Yeah.
But how would you know that you've achieved it when you reached it? Mm-hmm. They want to know. They want to know so that they can walk with that end state in mind. I would say you can imagine anything, but when you get there, you will know. You know, the dots in your life is getting connected, and as you connect them, the things fall in place. Right. And that vision of yours will be like your jigsaw puzzle. You'll see it when the last piece has been put on there. And yes. How would you? I don't have the answer. And I often say to people, when you ask me, I said, when I did that talk about almost to the 20th February 2020 out in Mumbai, and I walked on the stage for the first time in my life with an audience and an international audience, and I put my hands up, and I greeted the audience. At that very moment, I realized this is one of my visions. This is one of the things that I wanted to achieve in my life. I just knew it, and that split second.
Yeah.
I rejoiced in the fact that I have achieved it. And that's what I say when it comes to vision. You're joining this, this dots. All I always say to people is just try to be focused and going in the right direction or in a direction. Don't 360 all your life and see everything as opportunities, because that takes you away from where you're going. And either longer to get there, or you will never get there because you're spending time with all these other peripherals that may be nice and enjoyable and fun and laughter, but you've got to be focused so that you get down your path that you have defined for yourself, because you don't get to a vision because of some structured way of saying 1 + 1 is 2, and therefore I understand my end state is equal to 2. It's not that simple. Life is actually complex, and what you're talking about there is the knowing that comes through understanding who you are and what you're about. It's much deeper, and that's where you say we science and spirituality meets up. We don't know about these, the connection points, but somewhere, someday, it will be connected, and you'll know, and and the likes of Phoebe is placed in this world to help you along that path, because you deserve that. We all deserve that understanding, and the answer to our why. The question: why am I here? Why am I on this earth? Yeah. Why? Everything is a why. I don't have the answers. I would say you would agree with me. You don't have it either, but you can guide people down the right path for them.
That's right. Yeah.
General path for them, their path, according to their choice, because that's how they are wired.
Yes.
And that's
Mhm.
and I mean,
Bertie, yeah, it's exciting. And everything that you explained, again, is just another iteration of alignment, right? Because that's what alignment is that you step into that and you are it. When I was coming up with this concept of shift, right? And that's another conversation. But in 2008, we had been raising funds to launch this physical space called Shift. And the bailout didn't happen in America with Bush. All investors lost money. We lost our money to start it. And I walked away. My business partner was a little bit dejected and upset about that. But I walked away because I had this word or this sense in my spirit saying, shift cannot happen until you are shift. So until I've embodied what it means to make those paradigm shifts and it becomes my nature, that idea of shift will not come to fruition. And for some of your listeners there, or, that are getting frustrated because they're working on something and it's just not coming together and not coming together, the simple answer may be, maybe it's because you haven't done the work within yourself for that to even come into existence. Everybody wants the quick fix. Just show me what to do, get me the right person, throw money at it. That's not the answer. That's not the solution.
We need to get an instruction. Then we will follow. Where would that voice come from to help me with this direction? And like you say, this transformation. And then, I mean, you've highlighted that transformation can't take place without taking the first step. So the shift needs to have movement,
Yes.
action.
Yes. Yeah.
Where does the voice come from? How can I listen out for it?
Yeah. I've been on both sides of this equation, right? Where some people say, listen to your inner voice, because the answers are within. So that's one belief system. That's one belief set. Another belief set is listen to your God, the object of your faith. So if you believe in a God, whatever God that may be in your context of beliefs, then that's where that voice will be coming from. So it's going to be relational. If you don't have a relationship that is if you don't have a relationship within your spiritual realm, and I know this is going to be tough for people that are atheists, so I'll address that a little bit because I know we're short on time here, or we're winding up. But for the people that are within the spiritual realm and acknowledge that it exists, that's where I would be looking. For the people that don't have that construct, then I would be doing some inner, like looking in the mirror, speaking to the people that are around you that can affirm and encourage you that you are on the right track. Because sometimes we have this self-deception of, we think we're going the right place, and then we have the pride, and then we have the ego. But it's the people around us that are the closest to us that can actually speak into our lives if we allow them, that will say, yeah, you're on track. And then we feel it. That voice can be as simple as our experience of feeling that flow and not having that resistance. So something as simple as, we have resistance, you need to listen to the resistance. There's a reason why that resistance exists. It's not there as a barrier for you to see how strong you are that you can get through it. There are people that attack life like that. I don't suggest it. You're going to have a lot of damage along the way if you're living your life like that. So I believe walking out life in love, walking out life in grace, walking out life in surrender, and definitely walking out life in repentance. If we do that more often, we'll find that we're in the right place at the right time with the right people.
I wanted to ask you, how can we tie this up for in terms of our chat this day, as you say, your morning, our evening, so that people don't find themselves almost lost in this newfound knowledge. If not knowledge, then experience. We lost, and you've sort of tied it down now in your last couple of words to say what we should be doing. And at the end of the day, we should be spending more time with ourselves, that we can start believing what we are all about and what we can do and we can create, because we are actually phenomenal human beings, but we weren't allowed necessarily to follow our own dreams and visions.
Yes.
Let's say to this date,
yes,
that we can start trusting our little voice.
yeah,
Let's trust those things that we really consider important, because those things you consider important is what you are actually innately passionate about.
yes,
But for some dark reason, we are suppressing them because we, once again, need to fit in. Because if I let them loose, I'm going to stand out.
yeah,
And I shouldn't make waves. And what we're saying, my dear friend, that uniqueness, you should embrace it.
yes,
That's your right.
yes,
That's your gift. So understand these things and learn about these things. And yes, enough said about that. We can go on for hours.
Bertie, I want to just interject, because there's a verse from the Bible that came to my mind, and this might be a great, powerful word for many people addressing what you said, that the Bible, it says, do not be conformed to this world. So don't be conformed to the way that this world thinks, but be transformed instead by the renewing of your mind. So we cannot change our circumstances until our mind has been changed.
Amen. Amen. I would like you, whilst Ivan is coming on the scene, I would like you to share with everybody out that's listening, where can they learn more about the subject, or where can they get more about Phoebe? Can they communicate with Phoebe? Can they read about the Phoebe more? If they want to know more about what we spoke about? Help us out here, Phoebe. Where can they go?
Man, okay, so let's start with, they can email me directly. Okay, I will make myself available, and the best email address to use so that I know that it's from this context will be connect, right? Because I want to connect at masteringrecalibration.com. Okay. And then from there, I'll send you information, but let's start with a conversation. I want to know who you are.
Yeah. So Ivan has typed that out and put it up. We'll just make certain that is mastering recalibration.
That's correct. Yes.
Absolutely spot on. Thanks, Ivan. So that's where that's where you can talk to this absolute incredible lady. We have scratched the service yet again. Thank you so much, Phoebe. I appreciate it so much. Any last word from you?
For me?
Yeah, from you, yeah.
Yeah, just if you're not living in love, right, with those around you, if you're not living with joy, then it's time to recalibrate.
Wow. But obviously, I enjoyed the conversation today because it was right up my alley. You know, we had a lot of spiritual conversations here, and I think what Phoebe knows is that when she's sharing these thoughts and this message, what happens, and Bertie, I know you like that as well, is people become a little bit uncomfortable, and that's a good thing.
Sure.
And that's what I really appreciated about today's conversation. I think that piercing conversation where I think the audience is forced to look in the mirror at themselves and do introspection and say, what is really going on? I think that was really powerful. Phoebe, if you could leave the audience with one question that's going to keep them busy for the next week in terms of in terms of introspection and just, you know, being real with themselves, what would you like them to do?
It's a foundational question that I start with people is, what do you believe?
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about your relate? I mean, you can apply it to everything, but that question in and of itself, if you really lean into it, will keep you occupied for a while.
Sure.
Most definitely.
That's amazing. What do you believe? I love it. Thank you so much, Phoebe. I really appreciate your time today. I know Bertie had a ball because, you know, I can see, you know, he's always smiling, and when he smiles, I know that he's enjoyed himself. So it was been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much. And just to the audience, you know, as you can see, Bertie doesn't just bring great guests to the broadcast. He brings friends to the broadcast, and you can see by the interactions that they have, etc. And so if you have any questions for Bertie or for Phoebe, please feel free to post the questions below. If we see them, then we'll get them through to Phoebe, and we'll get her to come and just share with you thoughts, etc. Even if you're watching this on the replay, we'd also like you to be part of it and interact with us. Phoebe, thank you so much for making yourself available early in the morning. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the conversation today.
Thank you.
Thanks once again, Phoebe.
Absolutely.
I love
Awesome.
Thanks.
There you go. Thank you so much, Bertie. And looking forward to our next one, which is going to be next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock South African Standard Time. Bertie, thank you so much for bringing amazing guests to the table and for really expanding our minds and making sure that we are challenged with deeper thoughts, if you will.
That's all a pleasure. I enjoy it. Absolutely. Every minute of it. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.